Today I thought we'd talk about a product that features in almost every one of my videos, but one that I don't actually talk about a huge amount, and that is the Apple Watch Ultra that I have on my wrist at the moment, and I have on my wrist almost every day. I've now owned it for 2 years, which gives me a bit of perspective on whether or not it was a sound investment at the time and whether I'd consider upgrading to a new one in the future. I found it interesting that the Ultra 2 only saw minor improvements, and this year we didn't get any improvements at all, merely a different colour, though I must say I do like the look of the new black versions. So let's have a chat about the Apple Watch Ultra and how it's fared after 2 years and whether you should still be considering one going into 2025. So firstly, I thought I'd discuss what I use this watch for, because to be frank, I am not the adventure type. That is not why I bought this watch. I bought it purely because I wanted 2-day battery life. I wanted the option not to charge it if I didn't want to. And for the most part, that's worked out really well. Weekend breaks, days where I'm busy, I just don't charge it, and that's okay. Even after 2 years, I'm left with over 80% capacity on the battery, and that means that I can still get about a day and a half, sometimes 2 days worth of use out of the watch. And that's with the always on display switched on. I'm genuinely very happy with that. I do sometimes look enviously on those that use Garmin's smartwatches that last for a week, sometimes more. I do think there's a real appeal there, but I equally like that sometimes I can just leave the house without my phone, with just this watch, knowing I'm still connected to my phone if I want to make a phone call or indeed send some messages or receive them. And I can even listen to podcasts while out on a walk. I also like the seriously heavier construction of this watch. The one thing I told myself that I'd do right from the outset was not treat this like some of my nicer dress watches or nice watches that I also own. This is a utility. It is something that I use day to day, and I can't be stressed out if it gets scratched. And so I've worn it whilst working on cars, whilst doing some minor construction work. Whatever I've been doing, I've been wearing it, and it has fared incredibly well. I have some pretty heavy scratches around the bezel that will certainly, you can feel them when you put your fingernail over them. But other than that, it is pretty much like the day I bought it. Even the display has less scratches on it than my iPhone, which is impressive given my inattentiveness when it comes to where my arm is and where my watch is and what objects might lie between the watch face and, the rest of the world. I also like the fact that I haven't worried about whether I'm in the sea or whether I'm in like a hot tub or a pool. I just wear it and it's fine. It is very much waterproof, and that's something I haven't had to worry about. The action button on the side was interesting. It was a new addition that we saw of the Ultra that wasn't present on my Series 7 or my Series 4. And to be completely honest with you, I've used it twice. I don't even know exactly how many times I've used it, but that's how many times I can remember using it. It's cool, it's programmable, but honestly, I just don't really need it. I'm sure there's many people that love the action button and the programmability of it, but for me, it just hasn't been something that I've used. The one thing that has annoyed me, though, is Apple's need to reinvent how these watches work. And last year, I was in for a bit of a shock. The latest version of watchOS had some updates that really changed the way that the interface worked on the watch. And what we lost was the ability to check which apps were open. And it really annoys me. I use that as a way of tracking my apps and using them, because although you can create widgets and shortcuts now, you can't create shortcuts to all the apps. And I don't always want to scroll through my full list of apps when I'm trying to access them. And it has really annoyed me. It's been something that's definitely diminished my enjoyment of my Apple Watch Ultra. Beyond that, though, it still does everything I want it to do. It is great at tracking walks and runs. It's very accurate, scarily so. It's good at providing directions when I don't have access to my phone, though that's quite rare. The cellular element has worked flawlessly. I found the signal very good, although it still annoys me that you can't use it outside of the country it was bought in. I don't understand why there's that silly limitation. There shouldn't be, but there is. I've been less of a fan at how quickly I've worn out these watch bands. So this is the Trail Loop, which was actually a gift I really like. I had the Alpine band on it before. That one seemed to get marked and scuffed quite quickly and looks pretty bad. This one, at least, giving it a good wash every couple of weeks, does still look quite good. But yeah, they definitely feel like they wear out faster, which is a shame given how much more expensive they are. The speaker and microphone have fared well over the last 2 years. They still work really well and still sound great. You can have phone calls with this, and sometimes it sounds crisper than on my phone, which is the iPhone 13 Pro, which is excellent. And to be fair, once you've done the initial setup of the watch, it no longer needs to be like paired to my phone because of the cellular in it, and you can update the watch directly from the watch. It's all very much self-contained. I know that's the case with all of the Apple Watches at the moment, and that's good. It's an improvement that we needed. But for me personally, it's a nice improvement that I've continued to enjoy. It is a rugged watch, and it does feel that way. It's not light, but it's also not too heavy. It just feels like it's there, and honestly, I'd almost miss it if it weren't there. The health features continue to be really handy. I love the fact that you can do an ECG whenever you want to. Even if it is only a single loop one, that's fine. It still provides a bit of peace of mind. Equally, having all those health stats that it's constantly tracking, I like having them. Yeah, I've even shown some of them to my doctor when required, and that's been handy, being able to give that much data over to a professional that can actually interpret it more accurately. It is not by any means going to replace proper medical devices, but as a just data gathering thing that you have on your wrist that might be handy, it's certainly useful. The other thing I wanted to talk about was my charging routine, because as I said, sometimes I go 2 days without charging it. That's more rare these days. It was definitely more of a novelty initially. But what I find I do nowadays is I charge it for half an hour before I go to bed, and that's usually plenty to get me through to the next day. And perhaps I'll charge it for another half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I'm good to go. The fast charging on this is excellent, and as long as it's hooked up to I found USB-C charging cable and a proper charger, I think most of mine is 65 watts these days, it just works really well. So after 2 years, the Apple Watch Ultra to me still feels really good. It feels like it has a few more years left in it, and perhaps this is a trend that we've seen with Apple products more and more. My iPhone 13 Pro still feels snappy. It still feels very good. It feels like it's a phone that doesn't need to be replaced yet, which is odd because I love new technology. But I looked at the iPhone 16 Pros in the Apple Store last week, and I wasn't bowled over by it. The experience was so similar to what I already had that I didn't feel the need to upgrade. And perhaps Apple's recognised this because we didn't get a new Apple Watch Ultra 3 this year. We just got a new colourway of the Ultra 2. And that's kind of where we're at on this watch. This watch is so similar to the Ultra 2. It's great even in 2024, going into 2025. So if you're thinking, oh, should I buy an Ultra watch? Is it worth it? I'd kind of say yes. The Apple Watch Ultra is still excellent. It's still snappy. It is responsive. Yes, Apple has mangled the software a little bit, but if you haven't used one before, then you won't miss it. It's still perfectly good. The watch faces continue to be customizable. You can download a plethora of apps to do different things, even track the northern lights and how likely you are to see them. It's a great watch, and I'm just not sure I'd bother buying an Ultra 2 at the moment unless you want one in black, which is the only real reason I think to get one. It'll be interesting to see what Apple does next year and see if it can tempt me away from this one. But after 2 years, I'm really impressed at how this has held up. It feels better than my Apple Watch Series 7 did after a year of use. I wanted to upgrade after that first year. It wasn't much of an upgrade from my Series 4. Whereas this felt like a huge upgrade from the Series 7 and continues to feel like a snappy, quick watch that can really provide a huge amount of data. So if you're considering one and wanted a view from a non-adventure type who's just using it as a day-to-day watch and sort of a bit of activity tracking, yeah, I give it a big thumbs up. Very impressed by what Apple's done with it. So hopefully you found this little catch-up 2-year review on the Apple Watch Ultra useful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so you don't miss future videos. And I hope I see you in the next one. Goodbye.